Hey guys, Mike Koenig here from Chagrin River Outfitters. Today we're doing a couple of flies. First is going to be this little Craftfur minnow. Super easy, effective fly for a lot of different applications. You know, it works for a lot of things around here. Something I use a lot guiding for steelhead. Just like really, really realistic, olive over white, little bit of flash. Great movement in the water with that short shank. And you throw some eyes on it and it just really looks like a real minnow in the water. So something you can have a lot of confidence in fishing for a lot of different species, and something I hope you guys can give a try. Super simple and definitely effective. All right, we got a Kona hook here. This is a size 8, really nice short shank. It's got a little bit of a bend up on that hook, so we get really good hookups on these. Pretty light wire, and so it doesn't take a lot to penetrate that hook into a fish's mouth here. So we're just going to start that thread. This is a Veevus 140 red, nice pop of color there. Something that'll show up a little bit on the head there of the fly. And so, super simple fly. A couple of the materials we're going to use right now are these MFC. It's like a Kreelex. It's a really nice flash, a little bit of texture in it. And so you can get a little bit of extra length out of this flash, a little extra movement, and obviously draw some attention to those fish a little better with some flash rather than just the Craftfur itself. And so I usually take somewhere between like 4 and 6 strands of each, maybe 8. But keep in mind you're going to be doubling it over. So any amount that you tie in is going to be doubled. All right, so basically this is all going to be hidden by the Craftfur. But you can just tie it in like that, double it over, and then just wrap it. Doesn't have to be pretty here. Like I said, it's all going to be covered. And I usually leave this length in here, because that length is going to be cut to size after we get the fly finished and the rest of the materials on there. All right, so we're going to go with a little bit of Hairline Extra Select Craftfur next. You should do 2 colors. If you've ever seen a minnow, we have a dark color on top and a light color on the bottom. So typically all these flies that I tie will be, that kind of profile and color, dark on top, lighter on the bottom. I tie these in a lot of different colors. Your olive over white, blue over white, pink over white, steelhead like attractor style colors. But basically what I do is I'll grab a clump of that right there and just cut off like the same amount each time. So that's just like just a consistent amount that I cut off the shank here. So I just grab like what they call a pencil amount of it. And so I got 2 clumps. I usually cut like 3 or 4 clumps off there. So we're going to do 3 today. It's a pretty small size minnow, smaller size hook. So I got 3 clumps there. And you could take those clumps right there, grab it about 1 inch up, take like any kind of comb there and just kind of get rid of all that under fur right there. It's all garbage. Just going to discard that. All right. You can switch hands with that material right there and then just break it so that you maintain a really nice taper. Instead of cutting it, if you cut it, you just end up with a straight line there. And you just really want it to look more natural, more naturally tapered and have it end in a teardrop kind of a shape rather than a straight, flat, kind of motionless and something that would inhibit the movement a lot of that fly. All right, so next we're going to measure this up on the shank to however long you want that minnow to be. And so right there, that's a pretty nice length. A lot of times you'll measure it to the hook shank, but because this hook shank is so short, we're just going to measure it to size with our eyes here. It's probably 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches, which is perfect. And so keep in mind, we are going to tie this in reverse. So however much you want to measure, when you grab it, just account for that on this other side here. All right, so we just got that cut into length. I like to wet it a little bit. Makes it easier to control. Then we're going to flip that over. so it's tied facing forward, just like that. Those are really, really loose wraps right there, so we can keep all that material straight on top of the hook shank. And then after 3 or 4 wraps, just pull it straight down and apply that pressure. And now I do like to come in and trim this up a little bit. Otherwise, all that does is add a lot of extra material there. It's going to bump it out, kind of make it look like flare out and look a little bit unnatural. So we're going to keep this profile pretty small. All right, we're going to do the exact same thing with the white here. Come up and just repeat that process. Brush all that underfur out there. Get rid of it all. Come in and break those tips again. All right, and so now we have about the same amount, 3 uniform clumps on top, 3 on the bottom, so it'll be split pretty 50-50 on the color there. And so what I like to do is instead of measuring it up towards the back, I just measure it up to the length of this first material in there. So right about there should be perfect. Trim that off. Wet it a little bit and come in and just tie it in right on the bottom. Again, we'll start with real loose wraps, just like that. We're trying not to put any tension on it, so it's all that material is held on the top and the bottom, so when we fold it back over, it's going to be split really nice and 50-50. And, we don't have white on top and olive on the bottom. It's just going to make for a really nice, pretty fly there. All right. Trim that belly up a little bit, that reverse tie right there. All right. Now for this next step, the fly's almost done, so super easy fly right here. We're basically going to fold this front back, and a lot of times with this Craftfur, I'll just take and wet my fingers, help get rid of some of that fluff. All right, so you get that top side first, and then halfway through that wrap, you get the bottom side. And so basically, you end up with a really nicely, 50-50, tied in reverse minnow pattern that just, when this thing's done, it's going to look exactly like a minnow. It's hard to use anything else when you see these in your box. All right, so now that you got that thread advanced in front of the materials there, you really want to just build up a couple of wraps here, and you're kind of creating a dam. And this fly is going to look a little bit, it's not going to look perfect until we get those eyes on, so that's okay if it doesn't look great. It's supposed to be a pretty quick, easy fly that looks super realistic, and it doesn't have to look perfect, but it will once we get these eyes on. So I've taught a lot of people how to tie this fly, a lot of beginners, people who have never tied before, and they can pretty much pick up this fly and create something that you're actually like really impressed with and proud of with very minimal experience. So really nice feature of this fly right here. All right, so next we're going to go with the eyes here. And so these aren't real big eyes. This is kind of a smaller style minnow that we're tying. So what I do is I'll take those out and I'll throw those onto my, we're going to use glue on these, so it doesn't matter if your skin oil is removing that adhesive. We're just going to end up super gluing them on. So we're going to take our Zap-A-Gap, the gel here, and pretty much you can wet this a little bit to kind of tame some of those feathers. Not a lot if you kind of over wet it, that super glue won't stick, but basically what we're going to do is we're going to hold that in the shape that you want it for the finished minnow. And so I'm kind of holding all those fibers back just like that. little dab of super glue where you want that eye, just behind those threads and everything. And usually I'll just kind of set that eye on there and put it in place with these scissors or bodkin, you know, something that isn't your finger, because if you end up getting that super glue on your fingers, it creates a lot of issues. Like a lot. It's not good. All right, so we're gonna roll it over. Do the same thing over here. Toss that eye on and just move it into place. And then boom, that's pretty much it, you know. Really want to let these dry, and you know, anytime you use super glue, just make sure it gets a while to dry before you throw it in a box. You don't want your whole box smelling like super glue. But with that being done, I usually come in here and cut these kind of on an angle, and just like really what you're trying to do is just break up where you're cutting those, and not you know, like I said, you're always trying to avoid those straight lines. You want that nice natural taper and teardrop shape. And so basically, you know, set this aside, let it dry by itself. You know, tease those fibers back really nicely before you take it out of the vise, so that when that glue dries, it's going to be, you know, a really good profile that you're looking for. And that's pretty much a finished fly right there. You know, I'm not being filmed, and I can just like sit down and tie these on my own and crank out quite a few. I can get these done in like 2-3 minutes, and you know, really effective. You know, tie it in a lot of different colors, and just something you can just have a lot of confidence fishing with, because it looks so natural and realistic, you know. So I hope you give this one a try. It's one of my favorites.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And as always, please visit us at chagrinriveroutfitters.com.